The House on Blackwood Road. Chapter 1. The Move. The road to Blackwood was long and narrow, cutting through fields that stretched for miles. Autumn had begun to settle over the countryside, turning the leaves into dying embers of orange and rust. A fine mist clung low to the ground, and the pale light of late afternoon bled through a sky the color of old linen. Daniel Morgan drove with one hand on the steering wheel, the other resting on the cracked leather armrest. Beside him, Emma stared out the passenger window in silence, watching the trees slip by like ghosts. She had imagined this move as a new beginning, a clean slate away from the noise of the city, but something about this road unsettled her. It wasn't just the quiet, it was the stillness beneath it. Their car turned off the main road onto a gravel path marked by a weather-beaten sign, Blackwood Road. The letters were faded, some carved deeper than others, as if someone had traced over them again and again with a knife. "This is it," Daniel said, exhaling slowly. Emma nodded. "It's remote. That's the point. Peace and quiet." The house appeared as the trees thinned. It stood at the top of a gentle rise, framed by tall pines that swayed without wind. It was larger than the pictures had suggested, a two-story structure with peeling white paint and a steep, dark roof. The front porch sagged slightly, as if the house were tired of holding itself up. The windows reflected nothing, black and blank, like empty eyes. Emma's stomach knotted. The realtor had called it a charming rural home with plenty of character. But up close, the house felt like something else entirely. A structure that watched. Inside, the air was stale. The door groaned on its hinges as Daniel pushed it open, and a faint, earthy smell drifted out, damp wood, old plaster, and something sour beneath it, like the lingering scent of wet soil. Daniel inhaled. "Just needs some airing out." Emma didn't respond. Her footsteps echoed sharply as she stepped inside. The living room opened up in front of her, wide floorboards scarred with age, faded wallpaper peeling at the corners, a stone fireplace that stretched to the ceiling. On the wall above the fireplace, a rectangular mark hinted that something, perhaps a mirror or a painting, had once hung there but was now long gone. "Daniel," she murmured. He set their bags down by the door. "Yeah? Do you feel that?" He frowned. "Feel what?" "The cold. It's warmer outside, but in here it's freezing." Daniel laughed lightly, though the sound echoed strangely in the empty space. "Old houses. Drafty. We'll get the heat going later." But as they moved from room to room, the chill seemed to follow them like a shadow. The kitchen smelled faintly of mildew. Upstairs, the hallway slanted slightly to the left, making Emma feel as if she were walking on the deck of a ship. The bedroom they'd chosen overlooked the back garden, or what was left of it. Overgrown vines crawled up the fence, strangling what might have once been rose bushes. The window frame was warped, and when Emma touched the glass, it was ice cold. She shivered. By sunset, boxes littered the hallway, and Daniel was down in the basement fumbling with the breaker box. Emma stayed upstairs, trying to make the bedroom feel less alien. She lit a few candles on the dresser to chase away the encroaching shadows. The floorboards creaked softly, the kind of sound you tell yourself is the house settling. But when it came again, slower this time, heavier, Emma froze. "Dan?" she called out. No answer. The sound seemed to come from the hallway just outside the bedroom door. A soft, deliberate creak. One step, then another. Emma's breath caught in her chest. She moved closer to the door, every muscle tensed. "Daniel?" The creaking stopped. A long, thin silence followed, the kind of silence that stretches until it feels like it's listening back. Then Daniel's voice echoed faintly from below. "Yeah?" Relief flooded her in an instant, sharp and dizzying. She opened the door and peered out into the hallway. It was empty. Shadows clung to the edges of the walls. "I thought you were upstairs," she said when he came back later. He looked puzzled. "No. Breaker was tripped. Old house wiring." Emma didn't tell him what she'd heard. That night, they ate takeout on the living room floor, surrounded by unopened boxes. The wind had picked up outside, making the trees groan. Daniel was excited, talking about how he could set up his little workshop in the garage, how peaceful the area was. But Emma's eyes kept drifting to the windows. The dark pressed against the glass like something alive. A single moth tapped against the window pane, but its wings barely moved. Then, as Emma stared, it slid downward, leaving behind a faint, wet streak on the glass. She turned away, pretending not to notice. They went to bed late. The bedroom was colder than it should have been. Daniel joked about old insulation and pulled the blanket tighter around them. Emma lay awake listening to the house breathe. The floorboards popped softly in the hallway. Pipes moaned faintly in the walls. And then, she heard it. A knock. 3 slow, distinct knocks against the wall right behind their bed. Emma sat up instantly, heart hammering. "Dan," she whispered. He groaned, half asleep. "There's someone," she began, but the knocking came again. Daniel turned over, squinting in the dark. "It's just the house. Pipes. Settling." But Emma wasn't so sure. The knocks hadn't sounded random. They'd sounded deliberate, slow, rhythmic. Knock, 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 right behind the wall. She pressed her hand against the plaster, and for a heartbeat, no more than that, she thought she felt a faint vibration. Like something on the other side had pressed back. The next morning, the house seemed harmless again. Sunlight filtered through the dusty windows. Birds chirped outside. Daniel made coffee in the kitchen, smiling as if nothing had happened. "You look pale," he said, handing her a mug. "Didn't sleep well." She didn't mention the knocks. She didn't have to, because later that afternoon, when Daniel tried to open the door to the basement, their dog, a gentle golden retriever named Milo, began to growl. It was the first time Emma had ever heard him growl like that. His fur bristled, his gaze locked on the basement door as if he were staring at something neither of them could see. Daniel frowned. "Hey, it's okay, boy. There's nothing there." But when he stepped closer, Milo backed away, tail tucked, whining low in his throat. "Probably smells a raccoon," Daniel said, but his voice didn't sound convinced. Emma stared at the door. The wood was old, the paint chipped around the hinges. A faint, sour draft leaked out from the gap at the bottom. It smelled faintly like earth. Damp, cold, freshly dug earth. That evening, as Daniel worked outside unpacking the last of their tools, Emma wandered through the house alone. She found herself in the narrow hallway upstairs, facing a door she hadn't noticed before, tucked at the end of the hall, half hidden behind a leaning coat rack. When she pushed it open, a short, narrow staircase led upward into darkness. The attic. She hesitated, her hand resting on the rail. Something about the darkness above felt thick. Still, she climbed. Dust motes danced in the weak light from her phone's flashlight. The attic was empty, almost. In the center of the room stood a wooden rocking chair, its paint peeling and one arm cracked. Beside it sat a small wooden block toy, the kind children played with in the 1960s, letters faded with age. As she scanned the room, a gust of cold air brushed her neck. The chair rocked gently. Once, twice. Emma spun around, heart pounding, but there was no one else up there. The house was silent again. When Daniel came back in, Emma was downstairs, trying to act normal. But the image of the rocking chair wouldn't leave her. That night, she dreamt she was in the attic again. The chair rocked on its own. And from the dark corner behind it, a voice whispered, low and hoarse, like someone trying to speak through soil. She woke with a jolt. Her phone read 3:12 a.m. The house was utterly still. And then, just outside their bedroom door, the floorboards creaked. One slow step, then another. Milo whimpered at the foot of the bed. Emma reached for Daniel, but he wasn't there. Her stomach dropped. She slipped out of bed, heart hammering in her ears, and opened the door. The hallway was empty, but at the far end, the door to the attic hung slightly open, moving with the faintest of motions. As if someone had just gone through it. A cold draft spilled down the stairs. Emma whispered into the dark, "Daniel?" No answer, only the quiet sound of the rocking chair above, creaking softly in the dark. To be continued. Chapter 2. Stay tuned.